for joining me for the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Howie Jacobson. Hey, today we're taking a break from some of the heaviness in the world, and we're talking about food, and dessert food in particular, and vegan, healthy, keto-friendly chocolate. My guest is Rym Selmi, who grew up in France eating, delicious French food. Her parents are from Tunisia, so there's a whole other culinary tradition to enjoy. And growing up, she didn't really know what she wanted to do with her life, so she did what lots of people do when they don't know and they have lots of energy and ambition. They go into investment banking. And while she burned out her health on investment banking and a sugar addiction, she also learned a few things that came in handy when later on she discovered veganism, health, and wanted to create products that would make it easier for people to give up dairy and live delicious, healthy lives. So that's what we're talking about. Her company, Miiro, M-I-I-R-O, that's at Miiro.co, C-O. It's a very interesting story. And one of the things, if you're interested in business or in maybe starting something on your own, there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this conversation based on the mistake a lot of us make when we have something we think the earth wants, the people want, that is going to help the world and everyone should use this, is we don't really pay attention to the numbers, to is this going to work, to is there a market, how are we going to sell it and promote it and deliver it and distribute it and all that. And coming from investment banking, Rym Selmi had a series of questions and a bunch of tools to ask that really significantly reduced the risks of failure and of big failure at that, expensive failure. So I hope you'll enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, Rym Selmi, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast.
Hi, Howie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And for people who are just listening, they should know they're missing a really radiant smile. So as soon as you came onto my screen, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, which is good. I think it'd be hard to do what you're doing, which is sort of selling delicious, healthy, vegan chocolates and chocolate products, and be a depressed person. So I'm glad you got that smile.
It would be hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, especially because we were talking to a very broad scope of audience. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I love, often I love to begin just with, your story so people get to know you a little bit. Can you give us your bio?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rym. I was born in France. So I had this food cooking education from the country I'm from. And my parents are originally North African, so very, very strong cooking culture. But this cooking culture is very much oriented toward eggs and meat and fish and those kind of basically proteins, animal proteins. So I grew up in this kind of environment where my mom was an amazing cook. And when I grew up, I started really to travel the world, and I landed in the UK, where I started to work a hectic job. And when I quitted my job, I was totally miserable, very, very tired, exhausted, relying primarily on coffee and sugar. So I created some vegan, a Magnum type of ice cream. And because it was actually the moment where I started turning toward veganism, and because I read amazing stuff about it. So I created these kind of products first. This is a very short version to introduce myself, but
we'll get into the details. I'm making notes on stuff I want to ask you.
Okay. So I started creating this, and then I went back to another job, and then I felt that I actually had a product that I could commercialize. So basically I started growing in France and then traveling around the world, not finishing, but ending up in the UK, where I started like to know about plant-based food and veganism, more generally speaking. And I'm now based in the US. I have a 2.5-year-old baby, and then building Miiro, basically.
Oh, so North Africa, whereabouts are your folks from?
Tunisia.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very small country.
But with a rich culinary tradition.
Very rich, yes. Like North African countries, generally speaking, have, I don't know if you're familiar with Morocco, but it's like food is at the center of everything. Like it's the way moms express their love. It's the way people gather together, and yeah, it's a very like Mediterranean food, generally speaking, is very rich, and delicious too.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with Moroccan food, partly because there's more of it here, and there's, harissa and spice mixes, but also I spent a year in Israel, and there were a lot of Moroccan immigrants who, had set up restaurants and food carts. How does Tunisian food differ from Moroccan food?
So actually, harissa is Tunisian. So it's very spicy, very like there's a lot of like very heavy in fish and in meat, and very heavy in spices and flavors. Yeah, so it's a bit like, for example, I don't know if you're very familiar with Asian food, but Korean food is really distinguished by like the fact that it's meat-centric and the fact that it's very spicy. So I would say that it's more or less the same thing.
Okay, gotcha. So that's what you grew up on. When did it start not agreeing with you? Or did you shift? Like, I'm sure it's hard to get homemade Tunisian food in London. Like what did your diet turn into?
So basically when I moved to London, I was really leading this crazy life, like working without any exaggeration, like 18 hours a day.
What were you doing?
And I was working like as an investment banker. So I left these behind me because I really feel that it was not for me. Like my personality and everything and what I value in life was not really aligned with my values and also with my strength is, because I'm very creative and it's more a very do it the way I want or take the highway kind of approach. So it wasn't for me. So that's really when I quitted my job, I was totally addicted to sugar and I wanted to reconcile myself with my body. I was tired all the time, exhausted. I could, even if like I had a full night's sleep, I was totally exhausted. And I heard about dairy-free at that time, dairy-free diets. And people were like raving about the benefits of a dairy-free diet. So I started and I thought, okay, let's do this 2 weeks challenge. I did it and I enjoyed it. I really loved it. And I love the taste. I love the creativity, like around like dairy-free products, like, for example, creating the dairy-free cheese and those kind of things. And then I was like, okay, so if I managed so easily to switch to a dairy-free diet, let's try to switch to a vegan diet. But again, there was no pressure. There was no judgment, no nothing. I didn't know anyone who was vegan at that time. So I just did it just for me because I love a good challenge. So I tried it. And the benefits were incredible, totally. Like it solved a lot of my issues. Like I was not productive anymore. I was sleeping really poorly. Like I could have a full night's sleep in the morning. I would wake up. I was exhausted. I was tired all the time. My energy was very low. I was losing my hair like crazy. So a lot of things happened to me that the vegan diet managed to solve. or improve a lot. And that's really where I thought, okay, I need to do that for my health. I need to do the change. And then because it was about 7 years ago. So, and then people started like to talk about studies, environmental studies. And then there were documentaries about animals that started to become more and more popular. So I started to watch, and every time it validated this choice. So it's a diet that I really love.
Gotcha. So I'm really curious about investment banking, both why you signed up for it in the first place. Like, what did you think it was going to be that it wasn't?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I just followed the crowd and I thought I'd figure out. So like, what you have to understand is I come from a French society where academics are everything. So we finish like school quite late, like generally 25, 26 years old. And basically by the time we finish school, because we spend so much time in school, most people don't really know what they want to do. So, and the second thing is as well, it's not like the US where, for example, if you're really, really good in something, you're still hired because companies are smart enough to believe that if you're good in one thing, you can be really good in something else. So while in actually a lot of European countries, when you specialize in something, you stay in the same place the rest of your life. So while when you do a bit of finance, you have the flexibility to move around and do something else because it's still perceived as like open enough to move to marketing or like HR or anything like this. So that's the reason why I did investment banking.
Okay. And what was it that led you to quit? Was it a moment, or just, like this is something that's going against my values, or was it just the grind?
I would say there were several things that made me quit. The first thing is, when you exhaust your body so much.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
My phone is off, but I have a couple of people who can break through it. Sorry about that.
No worries. So I was saying that there are a few things that made me quit this job, and the first thing is, when you work with that intensity, it has to worth it. And like in hindsight, at the end of the days, I thought, what added value have I brought today? And then the second thing is, you also want to be part of something bigger. I mean, especially when you're younger, you just don't want to do things that seem meaningless for you. And it very much seemed meaningless for me, like doing some PowerPoints up to like 3 a.m. or it just really didn't resonate. And the third thing is, I would say for me, like, the way they human resources are not a big thing, in investment banking, like, because resources are exhausted. And for me, the way you treat people is something that is really, really important. There should be no debate around it. And the thing is, we're not treated always super well. So at the end of the day, I thought, okay, it's not for me. And then I discovered myself more and more. I discovered like who I was, what I wanted, what were my strengths and my weaknesses. And I felt that my strengths and who I wanted to become didn't really align with this environment.
I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I'm wondering whether your experience in investment banking ended up being something of a blessing once you decided to start your own company.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, because you learn attention to details. You learn some form of business ethics, because in investment banking, you deal with big customers, huge customers, and you need to please them and to make sure that they get the best service possible. So then you apply this kind of discipline to your own work. So because of that, it's totally worth it. But then, I would say what was more challenging was, and I only recently started to realize this, was the work-life balance, because I was used to having no personal life. So when I started building Miiro, it was normal for me working crazy hours too, up to a point where I had my daughter and it was no longer manageable. And I just realized that I just wanted to see her grow too. Mm. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, from your perspective now, do you think it's possible to found a company that has good work-life balance from the get-go? Or is there some period in which an entrepreneur is going to have to say, I have to sacrifice myself and my family for this dream?
At some point, I think you need to sacrifice. It can be a limited part of like your journey. But I think that it's a necessity. You have to sacrifice something. It's just, it's especially at the beginning, because there is so much to know. You need to know everything about, especially in my industry, food. So we need to be super careful with what we put in our products. So in terms of legal, we need to be totally compliant in terms of packaging, the claims we do, but also like we work with so many stakeholders. So I would say yes, most definitely. Like you need to understand a lot of things. Like myself, I did my own research and development. I didn't hire anyone so even for the ice creams that we used to do back in the days in London, and we manufactured, like it's very, very complex, and then because of that, I think it's a necessity to sacrifice at least for a period of time, a part of your life. Yes.
Mm. So in London, you had quit the investment banking job, and I was curious, did you quit like feeling like I give up, I'm defeated, or like I'm putting this behind me and I'm excited for the next adventure? Like I'm trying, like it's there's so many different ways you can quit something.
Yeah, well, I realized I was living someone else's dream, and it was not mine. It was not mine. I just went there because I didn't know what else I would do in my life. I didn't know myself. I didn't know what were my strengths and weaknesses. So, and then, it's a vicious circle. You stay there because other people are there. You're just afraid of the way you're going to be judged and everything. But then at some point you just believe that, it's their dream. It's not yours. So for me, it was important to start chasing my own dreams. I would say that this was really like a trigger for me to realize this.
Gotcha. And so once you started doing research, I imagine one of the things you discovered is that it's a really hard business to get into, to sell food that isn't sort of inferior, right? Like as long as you're selling inferior goods, there's always going to be a market for it. You can always sell it cheaply. You can always go to undercut your suppliers with another supplier. You can get chocolate from people who use child labor. But when you're trying to do something that's on a higher level, you mentioned all these stakeholders. Like how did you first think about what are the standards that you were going to insist upon, the things that would be deal breakers if you couldn't get them to build this company?
So for me, the deal breaker was, okay, so when we started to create our ice creams, everyone was telling us, because we were the first vegan Magnum style of ice cream in Europe that contained less, like about 30% sugar, less than our competitors. And it was a real innovation, per se. But when I created that, a lot of people told me, you will never do it. Like, I've been in the industry for 30 years and I'm an expert and expert this, expert that. But I just came with a lot of naivety and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I managed to do it, because that's the power of naivety sometimes. So, you know, when you do that and you manage to create something that has this level of complexity just because it's vegan, just because it contains less sugar. I mean, for me, this is my story. Like, those products are my story, my own journey. Like, having started like with a plant-based diet and then having reduced my sugar intake because of gestational diabetes was my story. I don't want to compromise on this. It's like compromising on this part of my life. So for me, this would be a big deal, like deal breaker, that the product cannot be any more vegan, or they would have a high amount of sugar, or this would be a deal breaker. And then I would say that my parents being North Africans, it's really important for me to give back to the community, because I saw poverty from my own eyes, and I saw deep, deep poverty, like the kind of poverty where like some mothers would take just like some leaves they could find and put some hot water and blend it to get a soup. It's just like stir the leaves for a soup, and they would feed their children with that because they would have nothing else to give back, to give. So that's why for us it's important to give back, and that's why on our website we clearly mentioned that we are giving back 10% of our revenue because of that. And now we are going one step further, because we are enabling, and this is like the next development of Miiro, like every single purchase on our website, like at checkout, the customer will have the possibility to choose the charity of his or her choice. And that's amazing, because the money doesn't hit our bank account. It goes directly to the charity, and it gives a lot of comfort to people for donations. So for me, having to compromise on that would be a deal breaker too. So I would say like those elements are very inherent to the kind of product and company we are today. And we wouldn't be able to compromise on those.
So what made you shift from ice cream to chocolates and baking products and confections?
So when we launched our ice creams, we received a great, like, the feedback was just amazing. So we had like it was a really hit at launch. And, but then the problem we had was that we had to move to the US, which was great news for us, because we could progress faster in our mission. Being in the US, people are being more open to learn new things. To taste new things. They are more open to variety than Europe. So it was great. But then when we moved here, initially I started to travel back and forth between Europe and the US. And then COVID hit, and I wasn't able to travel back to the US anymore. And I had my daughter too. So what happened was that I had to just like bring all our operations here in the US. And then we started to do some market research to see if we could bring in our ice creams here. And we don't want to bring in a product if we believe that it's very well covered. And vegan ice creams are very well covered in the US. There are a ton of delicious vegan ice creams. So we don't want to be like a plus one, like an additional delicious vegan ice cream product. So we thought, okay, let's put ice cream aside, and then with my gestational diabetes, I started to think, okay, if only I could have like a product where I feel satiated, where that is vegan, that is low or no added sugar. And this is really how I came to this conclusion that chocolate and baking products could be a really good fit, having tried all the no added sugar chocolate products here in the US. And then we also did like some market research, and we felt that vegan chocolate was not very well covered here, because very often vegan chocolate is associated to dark chocolate, which by definition is vegan chocolate. There is very little white chocolate bars, for example, or very little creamy, like milky with a Y, chocolate bars that are vegan here. So we felt that there was something here.
So when you say no added sugar, so what typically goes into a no added sugar chocolate product? Like I know there's 100% cacao, which is just bitter, right? Yes. And then, sort of 92%, 85%, and every time you go down a percent, it feels like it gets a little bit sweeter. What are the things that people use instead of sugar? And what's the landscape? What things are considered good and healthy? What things are out of favor? So
basically, I think there is a misconception about sugar. So a lot of people turn to coconut sugar because they feel it is healthier. It's brown sugar after all and everything. But when I did my market research, I realized that, my research for research and development, we realized that actually coconut sugar was still sugar. And all those natural sugars were still sugar, even if they were not refined. And I couldn't even consume it with my gestational diabetes when I was pregnant. So then I started to turn to, sweeteners. So it's basically, it's the power of sugar in terms of, how sweet it is without the constraint of, high, blood sugar, spike of blood sugar. And for us, so we started to look at several kind of alternatives, and there are a lot. So there's the category of sugar alcohols. There's monk fruit that is quite new here. There's allulose that has been authorized since last year by the FDA.
What is that?
Allulose.
Allulose?
Allulose. It's
never heard of it.
Yeah. There's of course stevia. So we wanted, for us, what was important, having tried all those products, was to be able to have no aftertaste, because sweeteners can have aftertaste. And that's why we created a blend. So we took for example, something that came up in our research was that some people complained about xylitol. So xylitol has been around for so many years. It's safe. It comes from fruits, and blended with stevia, it can have a great sugar. Some people complained about it because it was causing stomach cramps. So we thought, okay, what can we do? And we thought, okay, well, a good and natural way of doing it would be to ferment it, to have to get the best flavors out of erythritol, but also to remove the stomach cramps. And then we blended it with stevia, and so we buy our stevia directly from the farmers. And stevia can be difficult to manipulate, but then if you know how to manipulate, you can actually make sure there is no aftertaste. And then we also added some chicory root fiber, and we created a blend that had absolutely zero aftertaste.
Uh-huh. And so how much sugar is still in these products?
Sorry, I think I said xylitol. I meant erythritol.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we don't use any form of xylitol.
No xylitol.
So how much sugar? So it's meant to have less than a teaspoon for a whole bag or a whole bar. So it's about 3 to 4 grams.
Uh-huh. And just for comparison's sake, how much sugar is in a similar sized bar of, Equal Exchange or Trader Joe's or Hershey's?
So let's say if it's not a dark chocolate bar, but let's compare like let's say like our white chocolate bars compared to a standard white chocolate bar. I would say that ours have 4 grams sugar, and another one would have 45, 46 plus gram sugars for the whole bar, and very often even in the 60.
Gotcha. So it's a huge difference.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a huge difference.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you came to the United States. You realized that the ice cream wasn't going to work for various market reasons. Did you come to the U.S. to kind of chase the market? It sounds like a little bit like this is where the people are going to be open to something new.
No, so we came to the U.S. because for us, Miiro was not a product, so it was not tied to ice cream. It was really a mission. And the mission was to convince people that if they switch to a healthier life, and it can be like plant-based, no added sugar, then, I mean, if they find delicious products, they can switch easily to a healthier lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And this was our mission. And we felt that the US were so ready for it because people are so open to this. So, to this message. So we came here. Initially, we wanted to bring our ice creams here because we got all this feedback in the UK and in Europe, and it was a really good feedback. So we thought we actually believe Americans will love it. But then there were so many delicious alternatives. So we thought, let's not compete here. They've been there for 10 years, 15 years. And so we're not going to do that. But then when I tried the chocolate, equivalents or the baking chips equivalents, I was really, really shocked. And then when I started to discuss with manufacturers and their suppliers, their chocolate suppliers, they very often have the same chocolate supplier. And something that really shocked me was that they are very often proud of this supplier because it's a Belgian supplier, but having lived in Europe, having been raised there, we have like this chocolate culture that is very deep, actually. For us, we all know this supplier, and we all know that it's very like mass market kind of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought, no, like there gotta be something we can do here, in terms of what we can bring. So that explains, it was not just an opportunity. It was also because it was reflective of my own journey too.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I've had chocolate from Maison du Chocolat in Paris, so I understand the difference between that and Kaya Butt. I don't know if that's the one you're referring to or not, or whether you even want to say. So like you were here, you decided, okay, let's enter this market. I'm curious about like, I don't want to get personal into your finances, but it seems like it would take more money than most people would have to really dive in. And you kind of need other people, not just money, but also, legal and, intellectual property and financing. Like as a person with a mission, how do you first go about creating a team that has all the resources that you're going to need, whether it's money or expertise or, contacts?
I think that, so one thing we've been very lucky right from the beginning, be it in Europe or here in the US, a lot of people joined our mission. We didn't even contact them. We didn't even know their existence. They just contacted us because of the product. So they loved the idea. They loved the taste. They loved the mission. So they contacted us to support us. So that's the first thing. So I've never ever contacted an investor in my life, but it was the other way around. So we had a bit of investment, yes. But then a lot of things I had to learn it myself. And you have to be able to be super agile to find the right people, to incentivize them in a way where, like if they do 2 hours of work for you, it will be like 2 hours with great value, not just 2 hours. And generally you can find a lot of people like that when they love the mission and they take it personally. So it's all about our story and our journey. And that's how we get a lot of people on board. Then in regards to everything like legal, copywriting, branding and everything, it's just me. I'm very hands-on and I'm very passionate about all this. I love running my business because this is the kind of creativity I didn't have in investment banking. And that's the reason why I left. I started to learn what were my strengths is. And this is typically a strength I have, like to have this curiosity to learn. So we started learning. And then we validated with, legal, like, but when you get someone like, you take a lawyer to start a project from scratch, and you take a lawyer to just ask and validate, okay, what I'm doing now, is it correct? Which direction I should take? And then you make him check again later on. It's not the same price, right? Like it's like more a startup way of doing things. So we have our own ways of doing things at a lower cost. But one thing we never, ever compromise on is the ingredients we choose. Our packaging is recyclable, those kind of things that are really like core to our mission.
Mm-hmm. So what's the state of the business now? What are you producing? I know you sell on your website. Are you looking for, do you have, retail partners? Putting your products into other products? Where are you now?
So at the moment, we just want to sell on our website. We don't want to go to Amazon. We don't want to go to retail. And I think it's going to last like about a year, just because our website is just a fantastic way to educate people about our products. When you are in a supermarket, people take the decision. They have like there were a lot of studies about it, but in like the span of a quarter of a second, they take the decision whether or not they're going to buy your product. So how can you convince people when your product is on the shelf? So instead of that, when we have a website that is beautiful, engaging, with a great experience, people tend to spend a bit of time on your website. They tend to read what you have to say. They tend to understand your unique selling points. And they take the time to write a review. And this is really what helps us. And that's why we want to stay like focused on our website first. The second reason as well is to get the data. So, a fantastic way of getting the data is basically if you use your own platform, because Google, like 10 years ago, were able to provide you a ton of data. And when I talk about data, I'm talking about what customers love, where they spend time on your site. Is it more on the chocolate part, or is it more on the baking part? So for example, let's assume that a random figure would have 10% of people on the chocolate collection and 90% on the baking collection. Then okay, maybe the baking collection would be more interesting to develop than the chocolate collection. And this is really, you get instantaneous kind of data about what customers love and what they want. And that's why for us, it also makes sense to keep working on our website. So we won't go to retail or Amazon or third parties, platforms before a year from now.
How do you attract people to the website in the first place?
I would say mainly social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the biggest chunk.
Uh-huh.
We get a lot of people posting about the product they found, and we get a lot of support from influencers and creators.
Gotcha. Are you reaching out specifically to vegans, to health? Like how do you think about spending your social media time and money in terms of demographics?
So I would say that what is really interesting with our product, it's more of a wholesome product in the sense that you can consume a whole chocolate bar for only a few grams sugar with a good ingredient list and good ethics, being plant-based. So it's not really, we don't position it as solely a vegan product or solely a keto product or solely a low sugar product. So it's something that ticks all the boxes, and that's the way we wanted to position it. So having said that, we like the approach we take is we take a bit of everything. So a bit of vegan people, a bit of like low sugar dieters, health conscious people, and we mix it. Like we mix the kind of like content we receive from our customers. So for example, we have one customer being vegan, we will put it online, and then we will have someone else being keto, like we will also like publish it on our website, on our social media, etc., etc. We don't focus on one single thing. And the second thing is actually most of people who buy Miiro are none of those. They are not keto, they are not vegan, they don't follow a specific diet, they are just health conscious. So that's why it's very important to not focus on a label, if I can call it this way. Yeah.
I guess is that surprising to you that most of the people don't attach to one of the labels that you kind of went out of the gate with?
No, I'm not surprised at all, because I think that a lot of people consume meat or fish or eggs, for example, and they want to reduce their meat intake, but they don't want to stop consuming meat. And same thing for dairy, and same thing for eggs. So when you get a product that enables them to reduce their animal consumption, so for example, their milk consumption, or through something that they find delicious, it's an easy win for them. So it's really like people are really on a mission with their own health. Everyone, I feel, is on a health journey nowadays. And it just is the products that support them. So that's why I'm not very surprised.
So one of the things I was thinking about in terms of like being part of the vegan plant-based community, which is a very complicated community or nested groups of communities, is you have like very, very strict whole food plant-based people who kind of feel like if you eat something that makes an apple not taste sweet, you shouldn't be eating it, right? Like, yeah. And then there's vegans who are like, we just want people to stop oppressing animals, so we don't care if you deep fry fake butter if that gets right. So kind of how do you navigate, because you're both sort of a vegan product and a healthy product, but you're not a healthy product in terms of like, listen, stop eating sweet foods, just eat berries and fruit. How do you kind of navigate that in your own mind as well as in the marketplace?
Well, in my own mind, let's start with this. I feel that, you will have, the product, like you cannot have a product for everyone. If you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. Mm-hmm. That's as simple as this. So it is true that, for vegans, we are not really against their ethics. On the contrary, like we just use the ingredients they like. But then you have like hardcore vegans that will want even more from us. Like they would want us to post like animal products on our feed and everything. The thing is, the way I conceptualize it is just go the middle way. Like you have to find, even in your own life, you have to find a balance. And if we go like on the extreme side of things, we will have 90% of our audience that will not be happy. So if we go, for example, with, okay, let's just put it like super, create something that with an Instagram that really promotes animal, like cruelty-free practices and everything. Yeah, we can do a few posts about it. I think it's important, but it doesn't resonate with our mission. Our mission is not about animals first, even if we totally are happy to support those causes. But our mission is about diet first, like about helping people to switch to products that are good for them, and that support the environment. So that's the main mission. So then regarding the business, I feel that it's a simple marketing rule. You cannot target everyone. What we are creating is a wholesome product. So we more like, if we had to target some people, we would target health conscious people rather than vegan people or keto people. So yeah, so if some people want more from us on the vegan side of things, then they might not be our customers for this brand, not because we don't want to, but because we would disappoint them. So, but that's okay. You cannot speak to everyone. So that's really the way we see things.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So as you look forward, you said you're going to continue to sell exclusively on your website for a year. What are your plans?
Yeah. So we want to extend we get already a lot of great data about the kind of flavors people would like. So we want to expand with more flavors. And one of the feedback we get almost all the time is the fact that, like, the wow effect, how comes there is no aftertaste? Because sweeteners generally have a strong aftertaste. And so what we want to do is maybe putting on the market our like sugar system, let's call it this way. So our sweetener blend that has no that contains no added sugar, and then another thing, we are also working on a different totally different kind of product that is still in the sweet treat space. That I feel can really help people, like in their day-to-day life with those cravings. Let's say it this way. So with cravings.
Uh-huh. Okay. I recently read about the miracle berry. You familiar with that?
Yes.
Is that in there somewhere?
Yes, I've heard about it. No, it's not in there, but, like when you produce at a large scale, the way we do, you have to buy products that are not too rare, because if they are, it will drive the price really up. And at the end of the day, our products are mass premium, so it's like a lot of people can buy it, but it's still premium. So like if we go to, like, we dig in those kind of sweeteners, the products won't be affordable anymore. Like, people won't be able to buy it. So not a lot of people will be able to buy it. Let's correct this. So yeah.
Gotcha. So what are the challenges that you're looking at? What are the things you have to overcome to achieve the mission?
I think it's just keep building brand awareness. It's not an easy thing. I mean, the US is a huge territory. And you have a lot of pockets of the US that have very, very different lifestyles compared to the East and West Coast. So it's just like to keep building like brand awareness. And I think it's going to be super important over the next 2 years. Yeah.
It's so interesting because, I talk to a lot of vegan entrepreneurs who have, starry eyes and visions for saving the world. And they've got, their aunt's chili recipe or, or something. And I see that in you as well, but I also see like the business training where there's like, you're clearly very disciplined about what's possible, about what steps have to take place. I don't know if you, since the pandemic is starting to maybe become more endemic, if you're meeting with other entrepreneurs and you have sort of advice for people, who have the next great vegan product, because, most things don't succeed, or they don't grow big enough that the person can ever get out from under it and they become exhausted. Like, what do
Yeah.
what do you know from your background and your journey that you think could help other vegan or health food entrepreneurs?
So a lot of people will say they already know that, but it's the first thing that comes to my mind is that the product is king. So it's really, really important. The product really fits with the audience. And that if there is no added value in this product, like for example, at the moment, the big trend is fake meat. So you will have like fake nuggets, fake beef, fake everything. For example, if they just add an additional fake meat, but it doesn't address the pain points of customers, which is, for example, a pain point that I have with fake meat is the fact that very often it's not very natural, like the ingredient list is very processed. So this could be a pain point. So if they don't address one of those pain points that a lot of customers have, then it's better to take your time and to think of another product or how you could actually improve even better your idea, to refine your idea. So that's really, I think it's super important to not just has like a Me Too product where you just come up with another protein bar, for example, but you come with a protein bar that has something extra, or actually even something less. So it can be less ingredients, more natural. It can be anything. So that's the way I see it, really, not coming to the market with a Me Too approach.
And that's, that language of pain points means that you really have to become an anthropologist and a partner to your market. Because one of the things that I've done in business is I've fallen in love so much with my own idea that anyone who doesn't want to buy it is just stupid. Right? And that has not gone well. Right. So, I'm also hearing a tremendous amount of curiosity and humility and openness and hunger for feedback, as opposed to, I've got my product, and if you don't like it, I don't want to hear about it.
Yes. I think you have to. The product is not for me at the end of the day. Despite I still buy my product and I still have to go on my website and place an order because I have absolutely no room in my house for my products. But at the end of the day, the product is not for me. It's for a broader audience. And even if the idea initially seed from my experience, it has to blossom with other people's experience. And that's really the way I see it. It's not about me, or it's not about my pride or my ego, because sometimes it can hurt. Like a feedback, we all love positive feedback. And when there is a negative feedback, you have to face it. But at the end of the day, it's the journey that counts, because if you correct it, you just have to think about in which place you'll be a year from now, or it's 6 months from now, after improving your product or after coming up with new products. And it's just other people that matters. Like being an entrepreneur, it's never you. It's never you. It's always your employees. It's never your taste. It's always people's taste. You're just here like as there's an orchestra in front of you and just have to harmonize every bit of like sounds and music and language. And that's essentially what I do, just making sure we harmonize everything.
Mm. That's a beautiful metaphor. So before we go, let's build some brand awareness. So tell folks the name of the company, what you sell on the website, where they should go, and where you'd like them to follow you on social media, and how they can help you in your mission.
Yeah, sure. So the name of the company is Miiro, which is Miiro. Just for the little story, it comes from Latin. It means to wonder. And then we added another I because it's more playful and in line with our brand identity. So, and our website is Miiro, so miiro.co. And you can find us on our website, only on the website at the moment.
Okay, great. And what are some of the products people can buy?
So we have two range of products. So a chocolate collection product, which is like peanut butter cups, chocolate bars, and we will add more products soon. And then we have a baking range product, which is more like peanut butter baking chips, dark chocolate baking chips, a flavored sugar-free maple syrup. So yeah, that's the products we have so far. And we hope that in September we will be able to have more.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I know, a lot of people, there's a lot of great vegan cookbooks that have, cakes or cookie recipes, and, they're basically whole food, plant-based cookbook, but then it'll say, add vegan chocolate chips. And, God knows what's in the vegan chocolate chips. Or, all right, add this recipe calls for half a cup of maple syrup, or, quarter cup of coconut sugar. And a lot of us just, it's in that cookbook. So we're like, well, it must be healthy, or I'm not even going to think about it. But this really is a range of products that will not add sugar, so that you're not just creating your own homemade versions of vegan junk food. So really encourage people to give it a try. miiro.co. And
that's right.
Maybe in a year or two, we can start finding it on shelves, right?
Yes. So that's the goal.
Great. So Rym, thank you so much for the work you've done, for moving this thing forward for all of us, and for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for receiving me. I really enjoyed our conversation and having the time to explain a bit more about like our mission. So thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. So if you are so inclined, check out Miiro.com, M-I-I-R-O, sorry, not .com, .co, Miiro.co. And if you get something, let me know. Drop a line. Let us know how you like it, what you've used it for, and what you think. So garden news. Man, we've had a lot of rain, and now we're having a lot of sun. As I record this in the office, the temperature is approaching 90 outside, and it's 84 in here. I haven't felt like turning on the AC. Which means the weeds are having a heck of a time. So we've done a lot of weed pulling, a lot of hoeing, and the beans are starting to come up. We've got a bunch. We put up these trellises that are sort of like inverted U's. We're hoping that they're going to climb all the way up, and they're tall enough, made of 16-foot cattle panels, that we should be able to walk without having to duck down or crouch or hunch ourselves over. So looking forward to the beans coming up. Basil's doing pretty good. Most of the kale has flowered at this point, but there's still some good leaves that are hanging on. And in movement news, I actually played a little ultimate. Well, I played a lot, but I didn't run that hard on Saturday. So, the rehab is continuing. My buddy Gary lent me his 35-year-old Schwinn Airdyne bicycle. It's one of those big metal contraptions with the handles that go forward and backwards, and the front wheel is actually a fan. So it's kind of nice. And he's been kind enough to lend me that, so I hopefully will be able to get some cardio back even before I go pounding on the roads. All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Melissa Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Tina Scharf, Tina Ahern, Jen Filkinovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious Michelle X, Elsbeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Landry, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Kelly Cameron, Janet Selby, Claire Adams, Tom Franzek, Jeanette Benham, Gila Sert, David Donahue, Blair Cyborg, Dorona Vizov, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesner, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, Aviva Lael, Alicia Lemus, Val Linneman, Nick Harper, Bandana Charlie, Molly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Koppel, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Sharon Hirschman, Linda Ayad, Holm Hedegaard, Isa Tuzinwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Olakoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Marani, Karen and Joe Crabtree, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Peter W. Evans, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Emily Iconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Leenan, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bilberry Elf, Marjorie Lewis, Tricia Adams, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagan, Tracy Gullidge, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Paranganchi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Naik, Erica Piedra, Danielle Roberts, Michael Lushton, Sarah Johnson, Catherine Floyd, for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for now. As always, be well, my friends.